Well, the key question here is what is Ukraine going to look like after the war? I mean, we already know that they lost the East. That's never coming back. Crimea is never coming back. Um, and I think there's a growing recognition that while Odessa, Kiev, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkov, these areas are Ukrainian, but they're Slavic, meaning that they belong to they're part of the Russian nation. Um, and the Russian nation is beyond the Russian Federation. The Russian nation is a collective of people with shared ethnicity, shared language, shared religion, shared culture, shared history. Um, Sesame Street used to have one of those little ditties. One of these things is not like the other. Can you tell which one? And when you lay out Ukraine, one of these things is not like the other. That's Western Ukraine. Doesn't belong. Doesn't belong. That doesn't have shared history. They don't have shared religion. They don't have shared culture. They don't have shared language. They don't have shared anything. It was a part of, a territory that was added on artificially. And I don't think that Russia and Western Ukraine will ever be able to reconcile. That's just straight up. I think the hatred is so deep. These are Banderists to the core, all of them. You aren't from Lviv, or whatever they want to call it, if you're not a Banderist. Straight up. They don't like Russians. They view them as subhumans, orcs. And Russians don't like them because of the way they've been treated. So I don't think there can ever be reconciliation there. And if Ukraine is to continue to exist with the Western Ukrainian cancer appended to it, that's problematic. Because there's no amount of denazification that can take place short of things that civilized nations don't do anymore. So, it was interesting because Medvedev, Dmitry Medvedev, former president, current member of the National Security Council, was basically insinuating that just give Western Ukraine to Poland. Get rid of it. Smartest thing anybody could do, to tell you the truth, is ultimately when this is done, jettison Western Ukraine. Get rid of it. Make it no longer part of the equation. Make it Poland's problem. Make it Europe's problem. But it shouldn't be Ukraine's problem. It shouldn't be Russia's problem. Vladimir Putin in April of 2005 spoke of being the president of all the Russian nation. Western Ukraine is not the Russian nation. It has nothing in common with anybody else. They hate each other. Gone. If you take Western Ukraine out of the picture, I definitely believe there can be reconciliation between Ukraine and Russia. Why? Because they're the same people. They're the same people. Same history, same culture. Right now, really difficult times, but at the end of the day, they will live together in peace because that's their fate. They are family. They're having a bad family squabble right now, but how many people would have thought that somebody from Alabama could ever reconcile with somebody from New York after the American Civil War? We made it. Why? Because we're all Americans. So we figured it out. We got over that. We crossed that hurdle, and Ukrainians and Russians will cross that hurdle. It won't be easy. It'll be difficult, but but it isn't. There's no bridging the difference between Western Ukraine and the rest of Ukraine and the rest of Russia. I personally don't believe that that's possible.
All right. Ann Moss is handling backstage duties tonight, and we thank her for that. Some folks have been asking, whatever happened to Tori Mansfield? Well, Tori has a full-time job, so it got to be too much for her, but she still does our Sunday podcast, Scenes from the Evolution, and we do that every Sunday. Please feel free to help yourself to a beverage. We do that every Sunday.
It's Friday.
1 p.m. Eastern Time. That's right. Adult beverages optional, also soft drinks optional. So, Ann, let's line up some questions that are coming in live on YouTube and Facebook. We have one more of the questions that were submitted in advance. And then, Ann wants to... Oh, hello, Ann.
I'm here. I'm ready.
All right. Thank you. A rare physical appearance by Ann. Thank you. Sometimes we hear her voice.
Thanks.
That's what she looks like. So line up some good ones coming in live on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll do one more of the questions that we have already submitted from Centaur from Vladivostok, Russian Federation. Many of your Russian followers can read English and prefer to do it because translation may change the meaning of some phrases or even entire sentences. Will it be possible to buy your signed original book, non-translated, at your events in Russian cities? How's that for a question?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, given the state of play right now, it's not possible for the English version of this book to be brought into Russia in quantities that would make this viable. I mean, I have to tell you, people are like, Scott, bring me a copy of the English book. Well, first of all, guys, I sent them all out because people bought them. So I don't have any copies left. They're gone. But let's just hypothetically say that I had 100 copies here. How the hell am I going to get them in there? I got one suitcase. I'm going for 26 days. That's a lot of socks. And now I got to jam in books. It's just not possible. If it was, trust me, I would do it in a heartbeat. I love nothing more than the idea of people wanting to read this book. That's why I wrote this book. And I think it's an important book, and et cetera. And I understand what you're talking about, translation. I get it. But let me, since this is the loquacious time, I'm allowed to do this. Do not whip me, Jeff. Do not whip me.
No, not at all. That doesn't happen on Friday nights.
Yeah, but you're a mean guy. So,
well, that's true. But
that is true. But anyways.
Oh, sorry.
Damn, you did it. So, all right. Where was it? Oh, yeah. The people that decided that they wanted to publish this book, they basically signed my name correctly, right? Oh, Valley. If you're who I think you are, I signed it the way that the order told me to sign it. So that's it. But
he's a good Marine. He follows orders.
I just follow orders. Exactly what you put down on the request is what you get. Even if I look at it and go, I don't want to do that, but I do it because you requested it, you pay for it, you get what you pay for. But they took my English version to Moscow State University, Department of English, and they picked the 5 best American colloquial speakers, and they made a team. And the orders were not just to translate this book, but to capture the essence, the spirit, the nuance that I was putting out. Because this was written, not just in the English language, but this was written by an American using military expressions and things like that. So it's sort of a unique version of English regardless. And so now you have to have Russians translate that and capture that. And they picked the 5 top. I hope I get to meet these people and shake their hand, because from what everybody's saying, they did a really good job. So,
well, your wife reads and speaks Russian fluently, correct?
You mean Voldemort?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, has she read the Russian version and given her assessment of it?
She did.
Okay.
She found 15 spelling errors, 3 grammatical mistakes, and that's but she does, when she reads my books, even after my books are published. For instance, I can take this masterpiece, Scott Ritter's Iraq Confidential, the inside story of the weapons inspections, and she could randomly open it up to any page and go grammar, spelling, because she's that good and that evil. So
every book has a few mistakes. Every book.
Apparently, every page of any book I ever write, I will never get it right because. Right. No, but the point is, no, they did a good job. They did a really good job.
Military jargon must be very difficult to translate, I would think.
It is, and sometimes it's impossible to translate. But I have to tell you, it's impossible for English speakers to understand too. If you put too much military jargon, too many acronyms, sometimes I forget that I'm not addressing people who worked with me. So I'm going to say, well, we took the DPR 50 to the cargo scan, and we got ACES to come in and work with DPRA to get the AC 1213 up and running. And to me, it makes perfect sense. And the average person can be going, I have no clue what you're saying, man. None whatsoever. So then you got to break that. And this was the beauty of, I have a built-in writing support team. It was called My Daughters and Their Boyfriends, because they know nothing about what I did, nothing. So I hand them the draft chapter, and they come back and they literally circle it. What does this mean? What is this? None of this makes any sense. And so I basically had to rewrite it so idiots could understand it. And I don't mean that bad for them. I mean it that basically I could assume nothing. Everything that was down there had to be explained. So if there's a piece of equipment, I have to explain what it is and all that stuff. And I literally had to write some of these chapters 4 or 5 times until they went, oh, now we understand. So
That's quite a process.
oh, it was a big process. Yeah. Believe
All right.
me. And I'm the kind of guy, I mean, I'm all smiles right now, but anybody who's ever watched me take criticism after I spend a lot of time writing a chapter, I don't take criticism very well. I'm a spoiled little brat. And they're sitting there going, we don't understand. And then I finally blow up, go outside, kick the dog, and come back in again. Okay. And then I rewrite it. And then they do it again. And now I'm really hurt because I thought I answered the questions and they didn't. So I break down into tears. I go off and cry in the corner. Then I come back. It's an emotionally draining experience to write with me. It's tough.
You take my suggestions for the Substack quite well. At least you pretend to.
You don't see me on video, Jeff. You only see
right.
the email after I've calmed down. You don't see the holes in the walls. Right, Jeff, boom, boom. No, I'm okay. I'm not as bad as I make myself out to be, but I am pretty sensitive when it comes to writing, especially when I put a lot of if I really pour myself into something and feel like I captured it, I feel good about it, and then people read it and go, but we don't understand. What do you mean? It's my life. You have to understand my life. My life must have meaning. So it's tough being a writer.
All right. Let's go to the questions from our live audience coming in on YouTube and Facebook. We also stream live to Twitter, Scott's favorite social media outlet, as well as Rumble and Twitch, but we can only insert the live questions that are coming in on YouTube and Facebook. Amit Rao. Why isn't India offering its diplomatic services to bring peace in Ukraine? Would she not be potentially more acceptable as a mediator than China, whom the U.S. considers as enemy number one?
There's 2 things. I mean, first of all, good question, fair question. But this negotiation, this peace treaty isn't about the United States. The United States actually has to be excised from the process. They're the problem, not the solution. Is India willing to build a belts and roads, to connect it with Ukraine, to pour hundreds of billions of dollars into rebuilding Ukraine? Is the Indian economy ready to make that level of commitment? I don't think so. China is. That's what China offers Ukraine. And do the Indians have the relationship with Russia that China does? Can Mr. Modi fly to Moscow and get that that level of interaction? Is India the same level of strategic partner with Russia as China is? India's foreign minister is excellent. I agree 100%, but it's beyond it's the foreign minister. It's what India itself can put on the table, what they can throw up there. And right now, China's uniquely positioned. China is the big power right now that can go to Russia, get Putin's attention. The United States has its attention, and it can put something meaningful on the table for Zelensky. I don't think India is there yet. India should, I think, be involved in diplomacy. That would be wonderful. And maybe there might be a role for India in Ukraine right now. But I think right now China is perfectly positioned to be the nation that could pull this off. I just don't think India brings enough to the table to be able to untangle this particular knot.
Not that it's a big deal or anything, but just out of curiosity, what's up with referring to nations in the female gender? Did you notice he said she, India? Wouldn't she be? What the origin of that is? Why nations are female, not male? Have you ever thought about that? And then after thinking about it, what was your conclusion? Stupid question that I'm asking.
No, no, motherland.
Mother Russia, you say
There's
so.
also fatherland. I mean, so she. I don't know. I mean, it's the same thing with ships. Ships are she.
Well, yeah.
She was a good ship because it's the home, it's the vessel, it's
Maybe, yeah. All right. Lou. Scott, do you believe that America is turning into the old USSR? This is a very important question. You know how I know that? Because it's in all caps.
All caps. All caps. No, I think America's turning into America. Look, we were a nation that was born with a whole bunch of problems. A whole bunch of problems. Slavery. Women didn't have rights. We were focused on landowners, not on the poor people. You know, we had two kinds of slavery in America. We had of course, African slaves, but then we had the indentured servants. The Scotch Irish were a form of slaves, people tied to the land, and you know, we've been struggling. We had problems with the American Indians, Native Americans. You know, America is a nation that has a whole bunch of problems, American problems, unique to America. Our Constitution speaks of trying to, we the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union. So it's a process. And for a while, it looked like we were actually, in a very painful manner, moving toward becoming that better union. We had a civil war. Slavery was abolished. Women got the right to vote. We got laws in place to promote equality, but we've stumbled. Civil rights never really got finished. We still have huge racial problems. Gender inequality. I mean, if you don't think there's a glass ceiling in America today, then you're probably a guy. So we have a lot of issues, and we've stalled, and in some cases we've gone backwards. So the idea that we're the old USSR. Remember, the USSR. And here's the problem, Lou. You asked me a question, and the historian in me is probably getting into the dirt, and I'm missing the fact that you're probably making a broad generalization, because I see other people saying Lou's right. So I don't want to say Lou's wrong. I'm just saying, from my perspective as a historian, I always get into the dirt, and therefore, for me, the USSR is linked to Russian history. The czars, we didn't have czars. The slow pace of industrialization. The roles of the Cossacks. Serfs, linked to the land ownership. This whole thing that was Russia wasn't America. America was different. So that's why I have trouble making the two meet. But I think if you're saying that the United States has become a stagnant society, now you might be onto something, because Russia, although even when Russia was stagnant during the age of Brezhnev, I wasn't there, but people who lived during the age of Brezhnev said it was okay, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was okay, but it was it was stagnant, but it wasn't bad. Right now, I think in the United States we're stagnant, but we say it's bad. It's bad. This isn't good in this country. During the age of Brezhnev, did you walk out into Leningrad and see entire neighborhoods taken over by the homeless? No. But here in the United States today, homeless are everywhere. Our society is failing. Did they have major infrastructure collapse during the time of Brezhnev? No. I mean, things went wrong. Planes crashed every now and then. Bad things happen, but that happens in any society. But here, I get in trouble every time I drive Voldemort around because I hit potholes. Now, in my defense, it's because there's a lot of potholes, because our roads suck, and they get worse every time it rains. For some reason, rain causes giant holes to appear in the asphalt, and right where my tire wants to be. And and nobody's repairing them. It's just there. Bridges. You drive by these bridges every morning, and there's giant chunks of concrete that fell off overnight. Thank God there wasn't somebody below that when you see it, but you're just driving and going, where'd that come from? Oh, up there, the spalling. Our country's falling apart. I mean, I'm looking forward to going to Moscow because I've heard about the Moscow, subway, the metro. And what people are telling me is it's just gorgeous and beautiful. Well, I was just in New York City. I got to tell you, the New York City subway ain't gorgeous and beautiful.
Not gorgeous at all.
Not gorgeous at all.
In Los Angeles, it's like, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it's the majority, I think, is just homeless people now. I'm not kidding.
No, but how can we as a society be proud of this? USA, America's number one. What? I mean, I love my country. I want my country to be number one. I would really but my God, that's not what we've become. And instead, we got this, when we talk about stagnation would actually be good because it's just sort of there. We're a country actively ripping itself apart politically. We are being polarized, spun in, and who knows what the heck this is going to, how this is going to finish. So I wouldn't compare it with the old USSR. I was in the old USSR. When I landed in 1988, it was the USSR. And while Moscow then, I'm anxious to see what Moscow is today because I understand it's like quite the modern city. Our friend Randy Credico just came back and he was just like, it's the greatest city in the world, man. The greatest city in the world. You wouldn't believe Moscow. Now, I think maybe he snorted some cocaine and took some acid or something, but I'll see for myself. But,